you, and good evening. Good evening, and I hope you're able to hear me. I'm dialing in from Singapore. To start with, I'd like to just start by congratulating, and like the previous speakers did, Indonesia to have been appointed as the host for the G20 meeting this year. And the speakers before me have very eloquently put reasons why Indonesia has got positioned. The one factor I'd like to highlight is Indonesia's role in a very fast digitizing world economy. In fact, even pre-COVID, Indonesia was already amongst the fastest digitizing countries in the world. And if you look at Indonesia today, I'm struck to note that more than 8 million SMEs are participating in the digital ecosystem in Indonesia. And very interestingly, more than half of them tend to be owned by women entrepreneurs. So Indonesia, for many reasons, as has been mentioned, is extremely well positioned to make a difference through G20 and B20 deliberations this year. To start with, I'd say His Excellency, President of Indonesia, Mr. Arshad, the Chairman of the Indonesia Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and Mrs. Shinta Kamdani, the B20 Indonesia Chair. And ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to actually have been asked to play the role of a session chair at this B20 Inception meeting. I wanted to say a few comments to just set the stage before I invite many of the outstanding speakers that are about to speak to all of us. As we all have witnessed personally, COVID has upended almost every aspect of our lives. You know, we have changed the way we work and live. We have changed the way we buy and shop, and supply chains have changed the way products get delivered. And as many of the speakers have mentioned, I think the economic impact of COVID has been quite challenging on many economies, particularly on the vulnerable population. And it has actually further deteriorated gender parity. If you look at the World Bank report, roughly 100 million people were pushed below the poverty line in the year 2021. And it is expected that in the year 2022, another 150 million people will likely get pushed below the poverty line. So the challenges that COVID has posed are quite significant. Now, having said that, I think the pandemic is also opening up many new interesting doors and avenues for growth. If you look at the IMF estimates for 22, the global economy is expected to grow at almost 5%, and Asia, in fact, is expected to grow at 6.5%. If anything, the pandemic has further accelerating the rate of innovation in every aspect of business and life. And I believe this metabolic rate of innovation is only going to go further up over the next many years. And this is making a fundamental impact on three things. Firstly, on digitization, which I referred to at the beginning. Second is on new venture building. And third is on sustainability. So let me say a few words about each of these three aspects where innovation is having an impact. Well, if you look at digitization, as I go around the region, I have had the opportunity to talk to about 100 CEOs in the last 6 months, and I'm struck by how fast the digitization efforts have accelerated. In fact, most of the efforts around digitizing customer interactions and supply chain activities have probably been accelerated on average by 3 to 4 years because of COVID. Similarly, if you look at share of digital and digital-enabled products has probably gone up by almost 7 years of activity has been undertaken in the last year or so. Now, if I go to the second aspect of new venture building, as you go and talk to CEOs in the region and around the world on what their top priorities are, more than half of the CEOs we interviewed mentioned that building new businesses is one of their top 3 priorities. In fact, if you look at the rate of corporate venture activity in the world, has been growing at about 30% a year for the last 6-7 years. And if you look at the top Fortune 100 companies today, almost 3/4 of those Fortune 100 companies today have some form of corporate venture activity going on. Finally, let me say a word about sustainability. I think, as we all know, about 80% of the world has committed to net zero objectives. However, to get to net zero objectives would require the world to spend about $275 trillion by 2050. This amounts to roughly $9 trillion a year, which is roughly $3.5 trillion more than what is being done today every year. Now, just to put things in perspective, this is roughly half of the world's entire corporate profits. This is no mean feat, and we will need to continue to innovate rapidly in all forms of technologies, including clean tech, hydrogen, carbon capture, to allow our net zero goals to be realized. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think if there is one message, I think if you step back from what we see happening, is really prioritizing innovation and technological upgradation is the need of the hour. And I think is critical, not just to meet our immediate COVID-driven challenges, but also to put the global economy on a path for sustainable, inclusive growth, as many of the speakers before me have mentioned. With that set of introductory comments, it is now my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker to share his comments, and let me invite on stage Mr. Andre Solistio. I believe he is in the room in Indonesia, so welcome on stage. I think you're one of the few people who are joining us in person. As you know, digitization has fundamentally changed our definition of channel mix. Today, if you look at the world economic activity and retail sales, about 18% of all sales are happening through e-commerce channels. And it is expected that that number will be close to 22 to 24% in just another 2 to 3 years. We all know that MSMEs have played a very fundamental role in the enablement of e-commerce. And Andre is extremely well positioned to share his comments. He is, as you all know, the CEO of Go2, which is the most valuable startup out of Indonesia, as I've come to know and learn recently. They impact almost 2% of Indonesia's GDP. And I welcome Andre to come and share his comments on how the MSME opportunity can be unlocked through digital growth. Over to you, Andre.
Thank you, Gautam. First of all, I'm actually alone in the stage here, so it's quite an interesting experience here. So thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I wanted to send my respect to Pak Arsyad, Chairman of Kadin, Ibu Shinta, who is Chair for the B20 Indonesia, Pak Anindya Bakri as well. So very honored to actually share perspective on actually the topic of supporting MSMEs through digitalization. So obviously, as a platform that actually enables MSMEs across the whole of Indonesia and certain part of Southeast Asia, this is a topic that is very close to us. But maybe just before I start sharing some perspective, let me share some statistics and data to begin with. As you all know, MSMEs are the backbone of the economy of Indonesia. There are about 60 million MSMEs right now in Indonesia that contributed to about 61% of the national GDP. So in some sense, the resiliency of MSMEs are important, especially during these pandemic times, to ensure that the country also are resilient. So, but despite a lot of the things that actually hit hard because of the pandemic, we've actually are very encouraged to see the rapid pace of acceleration of digitization. So Gautam mentioned earlier, what used to take a year, now it's accelerated 3 years ahead very quickly because of the need during the pandemic. So platforms that actually help MSMEs to reach to a larger customer base, either it's e-commerce platform, food delivery platform, and many others, have actually helped for MSMEs to actually survive. And actually, for a lot of them that has embraced digitization, has thrived as well. In Go2 alone, last year, we saw, we processed about $33 billion of transaction value. And because we're not selling our own product, this is actually sales that is actually generated for all the merchants that we partner with. And that actually has increased year over year. So you can imagine that a lot of opportunities has actually been made through digital platforms for those MSMEs to actually get income opportunities. So this is actually a very important trend, and we're obviously super excited about this. And what needed to be done, what has been accelerated fast, we need to ensure that the continuum of adoption, the acceleration of digitization shouldn't stop post-pandemic. So what's great, we need to continue to invest and to ensure that, again, MSMEs can be helped because of the digitization. So why is it important? The first thing I really want to focus on is this gives the ability for inclusive growth. So why do I say that? Previously, if you are a business, the way that you are able to actually embrace a larger customer base is if you will have the capital to be able to be within the demand. Because of digital platform, not only there's an opportunity to democratize economic opportunity through a lot of the different sizes of businesses. What we've seen in the platform that we established when we actually launched our food delivery product, for instance, there are multiple small businesses, mom and pop store, who never get traffic because they're located far away from city centers, far away from demand. They suddenly got a lot of demand from a lot of customers because of what food delivery actually bridge. So wherever you are, whenever you are, you'll be able to get access to consumer demand. Similarly, the opportunity to democratize this economic activity is not just between the sizes of businesses that actually is operating, but also in terms of location. As you know, Indonesia is an archipelago country, so in a lot of ways, merchants who are selling in smaller islands will not get the enough demand to be able to sell their product. But because of what a lot of e-commerce platforms have actually established, again, where the supply is, this types of e-commerce platform gave the ability for a lot of these merchants to meet multiple consumer demands, and via investment in logistics, delivery is made easy. And even today in Indonesia, if you want to order anything from anywhere in Indonesia, you'll get your items in the next day or 24 hours from now. And that actually allows again an opportunity for MSMEs to be participating in this larger demand and to create an inclusive growth. The other interesting part is digitization also increases opportunity to create cost efficiency. Again, similarly, many MSMEs are suffering because of the inefficiency of infrastructure. There's too many intermediaries that actually takes so much of the economic profit that makes costs to actually operating expensive for MSMEs. We've also seen a lot of encouraging trends where many digital platforms actually help to also solve that operating inefficiencies, so that if cost becomes cheaper and then getting ways for them to actually sell stuff becomes cheaper, that also increases the ability for them to create more profitability and also to reduce costs for the consumers as well. So that what ended up resulting is that a lot of less dense or less city center areas in Indonesia now has created a lot of pockets of income opportunities. So a lot of the regions actually started to actually be able to create that kind of economy within that area, and a lot of the economic activity also contributed to more job opportunities that itself create a sustainable inclusive growth. And lastly, I think I'm also encouraged to see that because of the investment that many of companies have done in creating these technological platforms, there's also a lot of interesting new entrepreneurs that actually got, established because of this trend. What used to be very hard to start a business today is very easy, and many of these digital platform actually help them not only to sell but also to manage the operations better. In some sense, the analogy is that if you have a great idea or great product, it's so easy to start a business, and that actually have been true during this pandemic. In the last couple of years, we've seen about 1.5 million of additional MSME registered into our platform, and 60% of them are new entrepreneurs who never actually done any businesses before. And that's actually a very encouraging trends because obviously those excitement, those entrepreneurship will carry on in terms of creating this sustainable growth opportunities along the way, and in turn also create a lot of economic activity for that as well. So I think there's multiple ways why this digitization for MSMEs are important. But my message and my conclusion is that what's been great needs to be continue to be invested, and to be able to continue with that investment, it needs to be collaborative. Government has been very, very supportive in its digitization and have done multiple great policies that support. But more, we need more. And obviously, this is kind of where collaboration between private and the public sector is really required. And that's kind of a conclusion that I want to make from this. So thank you, Gautam.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Asia, as you all know, has been at the center of driving the world's consumption. And as you look at the next decade, Asia will drive roughly half of the world's global consumption and represents about a $10 trillion opportunity for the world. Now, we all know that capturing that opportunity requires companies to build ecosystems. And I think nobody is better positioned than Mr. Joseph Tsai to come and speak to you about collaborative growth and unlocking digital opportunities through collaborative growth. So let me welcome Joseph Tsai, the co-founder and vice chairman of Alibaba, for his remarks.
Gautam, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. I also want to thank His Excellency President Jokowi, and also the Indonesia B20 organizing committee to allow Alibaba to make a quick presentation. When we talk about multi-stakeholder collaboration using internet innovation and digitization to drive growth, Alibaba has taken the last 23 years of our history to experiment with this great process of growth, digitized growth driving for the Chinese economy. But over the last few years, Alibaba has also, stepped outside of China. If you look at our business, we're mainly a consumer-driven company for online shopping, and with over 900 million annual active users shopping on our platform in our home country. But what's more important is that we have built the infrastructure for driving and developing the growth. And that infrastructure today is productized into a business unit, our cloud computing unit called Alibaba Cloud. And we're using that infrastructure to enable other countries and entrepreneurs and small businesses in all around the world to drive growth. And internet by its nature is based on innovation, based on digitized information, and also most importantly, it's inclusive. Whether you're big or small, you can use the internet infrastructure to develop your business. And Alibaba's core strength and our core competency is to help small businesses to leverage the power of digitization. And I want to give you a few examples. There's nothing that's more inclusive than the Olympics. Olympics is an event globally where all countries come together in one place. The athletes, they compete, but also in the background, countries collaborate and have a chance to meet with each other. And this sense of inclusiveness is all embodied in the Olympic spirit. And Alibaba is proud to be the infrastructure cloud supplier to the Olympics. And so, for example, in the Beijing Winter Olympics, which is about to start in about a week, we are the cloud service provider for the online exhibition hall for the Beijing Olympics, where users can use the internet and the digitized formats to experience the Olympics from anywhere they are. As you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so fans cannot physically travel to the Olympic site, but they could use the internet and our infrastructure to experience the Olympics. We're also supporting broadcasters around the world who are broadcasting the Olympics. The traditional way of broadcasting is you have to bring a very heavy truck into the site, and then you have to bring your production people into the truck to produce the Olympics so that their home countries could see their own athletes perform. But today, with the Alibaba cloud infrastructure supporting broadcasters, we are able to enable the rights holders, all the TV broadcasters, to stay within their home country and do this production remotely, which really makes it very, very inclusive. Basically, has democratized the broadcasting process. So whether you're a big broadcaster or a small broadcaster, no matter how much resources you have, they could do the production remotely within their own country. And on this, we're working with the Olympic Broadcasting Services to enable that. And we are also enabling the athletes themselves using our AI modeling to create volumetric captures of their movements, whether it's during training or competition. All of these captures will be able to create good analytical data for the analysts, for the athletes to understand how they can perform better. And that's also powered by the Alibaba Cloud. So, with the global village of the Olympics, everybody coming together, with the athletes coming together, we're still enabling a mixed process of both physical and virtual, so that fans can experience the Olympic spirit virtually from all around the globe, and that makes all of this Olympics much, much more inclusive. In the case of Indonesia, our cloud infrastructure, our cloud business has been operating here for several years. And our core mission here is to support entrepreneurs and businesses, especially small business, to become successful and help them grow. And I'm very honored to have the opportunity to be on the same panel as Andre, who we know, and his company is one of the leading digital companies today, really in the world, supporting a very, very important mission of making the services, delivery services, and all the sort of physical services available digitally so that you can order online. I think that's a great effort. We are in Indonesia making, actually supporting quite a bit of activity when it comes to helping young people to get trained. We're part of the this program called the Kartu Pekerja, which is a pre-employment card training program. And so far, we have powered the training of skills and digital competency of people that have been affected by the COVID and that pandemic. And so far, we've been able to train 7.9 million people on 1,700 subjects for this training. And we're very proud to be partnered in this regard within Indonesia. The other example is we're partnered with the Ministry of Communications and Information on a digital talent scholarship program where we are providing the digital infrastructure for training young people, especially helping them to enhance their digital competency. And so all of these steps really come down to the importance of having the infrastructure for digitization. We live in a much more digitized world where the internet is everywhere and consumers are interacting with the internet, and at the same time, data is being captured through those interactions. And for companies and businesses that want to manage data from storage to analytics, Alibaba Cloud is often behind these kind of activities. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to make this presentation.